What if I told you that the tiniest decision you make before breakfast could be the very domino that topples mountains? That brushing your teeth with intention, sending that one email, or choosing courage over comfort just once could shift the entire trajectory of your life. Stay with me because I'm about to show you how the smallest moves you make, when focused through the lens of purpose, become the engine of extraordinary transformation. Intentional action is the secret ingredient that transforms ordinary efforts into extraordinary results. Most people live their lives on autopilot, allowing their daily actions to be dictated by impulse or circumstance. They respond to the day's events as they come, reacting to what life throws their way. But those who achieve true success understand that action is not something to be reacted to, it is something to be deliberately chosen. Imagine the individual who wakes up each morning with a clear purpose to improve one area of their life, whether it's their health, their career, or their personal relationships. This person is not swept up in the noise of the day, but instead they choose their actions with great care, setting the course for their own future with intention and determination. Let's look at the example of a young entrepreneur. At first, he may not have much, just an idea and a laptop, but he possesses one thing that others lack, the power of intentionality. Each morning he rises early, not to check his email or browse through social media, but to spend the first few hours of his day focusing solely on his business. It doesn't matter if he's tired or if the world feels uncertain. The young entrepreneur knows that day after day he must pour effort into his business, even if it's just a little bit at a time. He crafts a strategy, sets clear goals, and takes action, no matter how small. Perhaps it's sending an email to a potential client or researching a key industry trend. Some days it feels as though he's making little to no progress, but he's not deterred because he understands the compound nature of intentional action. Each step, no matter how small, is building towards something greater. Over time, these actions compound and accumulate, growing into something far larger than the sum of their parts. The business, which once seemed like a fleeting dream, begins to take shape and then begins to grow. Slowly, it catches fire until one day that young entrepreneur finds himself with a thriving company simply because he showed up day in and day out with intention. Now, think of the dedicated athlete, the basketball player who, after practice ends and the lights are turned off, stays on the court for an extra hour practicing his free throws. This isn't the practice that gets him the recognition. No one sees him in the gym long after the team has left. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't come with accolades or applause, but every single shot he takes, every slight adjustment he makes to his form is an intentional act. These small adjustments don't produce immediate results, but they build up over time. One day, in the heat of a championship game, when the score is tied and the clock is winding down, the player steps up to the free throw line. The crowd falls silent. He takes a breath, remembers all of those early mornings and late nights, and with perfect form sinks the winning shot. The crowd erupts, but what they don't know is that the victory was not a product of one heroic moment, but of countless hours of focused, intentional action. It was the sum of every minute spent in quiet practice, every shot taken without fanfare, every failure followed by a new attempt. What appeared to be a single successful moment was, in fact, the result of a long string of intentional, compounded actions. This is the power of intentional action. It doesn't matter if the world sees your efforts. It doesn't matter if you're getting immediate results or recognition. What matters is that you stay committed to your purpose and that you take action every single day, no matter how small. When you do this, you are harnessing the compound law of intentional action. Over time, these small, consistent efforts begin to compound, and you will find yourself achieving things you never thought possible. It's the kind of success that sneaks up on you. It doesn't come in one flash of brilliance, but in the slow accumulation of focused, deliberate action repeated over time. Just like the entrepreneur, the athlete, or anyone who's ever succeeded in a meaningful way, the key is not in the size of the action, but in the consistency and the clarity of purpose behind it. And that is the compound law of intentional action. It is the secret to achieving not just temporary success, but lasting, significant change. A definite purpose is like the North Star to a sailor on a vast ocean. In a world full of distractions, uncertainties, and noise, the person with a definite purpose remains steadfast, unwavering in their direction. The power of a definite purpose lies not in its loud declaration, but in its quiet, consistent guidance. It is the internal compass that helps you navigate the storms and calm seas alike. People who succeed in life often do not do so by luck, but by clarity. They have a firm and unwavering belief in where they are headed. This clarity, born from a definite purpose, provides them with the strength to endure adversity and the discipline to remain on course, even when the world around them suggests otherwise. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, whose name is synonymous with invention. What many don't realize is that Edison faced failure after failure before achieving success with a light bulb. At one point, after hundreds of failed experiments, his team's morale was nearly shattered. They were on the brink of abandoning their efforts, but Edison's purpose, his unshakable belief that electric light could transform the world, was the quiet force that kept him going. He had no dramatic moments of public encouragement, no grand applause, just a clear vision of what could be. Every setback was merely a stepping stone, an obstacle to be overcome on the way to his goal. Edison's definite purpose allowed him to view failure not as a dead end, but as an integral part of his journey. It was his quiet resolve to create something that would change the world, despite all the evidence suggesting he was wrong, that led to his monumental success. His strength lay in the power of his vision, a vision so powerful that it quieted every voice of doubt and pushed him forward. Now, imagine an athlete preparing for the Olympics. This individual may not have the most remarkable natural ability, but what they possess is a purpose that rises above the noise of competition, above the doubts, and above the exhaustion of training. Every day they rise before the sun, not because the world is watching, but because they are driven by something deeper than knowledge that each drop of sweat, every rep, every sacrifice brings them closer to realizing their goal. The athlete's definite purpose is not something they need to shout from the rooftops. It's not about telling the world what they're going to do. It's about living every action, every moment in alignment with that purpose. The power of this definite purpose lies in its silence. It doesn't need to be explained or justified to others. It is felt deeply within, like the silent whisper that guides each movement, ensuring that every action taken is a step closer to achieving greatness. When the athlete feels the fatigue setting in, when the urge to quit becomes overwhelming, it is their purpose that provides the strength to continue. The purpose is not just an external goal, it is an internal force that propels them forward, even when their body begs them to stop. The true power of a definite purpose is not in its bold declarations, but in its ability to transform your day-to-day actions to create momentum when the world tells you to give up. A person with a definite purpose wakes up each morning with a clarity that the average person doesn't have. The average person is swayed by external events, by fleeting emotions, and by temporary circumstances. But the person with a definite purpose is driven by a vision, a mission that remains unshaken by the turbulence of daily life. Their path may not always be easy, and it certainly isn't always glamorous. But it is clear. And it is that clarity, that steady purpose, that allows them to continue moving forward when others falter. Think about the life of Helen Keller, who, despite being deaf and blind, developed a sense of purpose that led her to become one of the most influential figures of her time. Her purpose was not just to live it, was to prove that limitations are only as powerful as the person who accepts them. She did not need anyone else's approval, nor did she wait for the perfect conditions. Her purpose to communicate, to learn, to make an impact, fueled every single step she took. It was the silent strength of her definite purpose that allowed her to break through the barriers of her own disability and defy the odds. She faced daily challenges that most could not even imagine, yet her unyielding purpose, something that was so deeply embedded in her soul, kept her focused. No amount of doubt, no matter how heavy the darkness, could divert her path. Her definite purpose guided her through the bleakest moments, reminding her that her life had meaning beyond the challenges she faced. The silent strength of a definite purpose is not about grand gestures, declarations, or loud proclamations. It is the quiet commitment to stay the course, no matter what distractions arise. It is the ability to focus relentlessly on your vision and to take the necessary steps even when no one is watching. This quiet strength builds over time, accumulating in small, steady actions that, when compounded, result in monumental achievements. The person with a definite purpose becomes a force, not because they are constantly in motion, but because they are always moving in the right direction, no matter how small the steps may seem. It is this quiet but powerful force that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary and the impossible into the inevitable. The world is full of grand gestures, loud proclamations, and sweeping declarations of change. Yet true success does not arise from monumental actions alone. It is often the small, seemingly insignificant habits, those micro-habits that we perform daily without fanfare, that hold the true power to shift our lives in profound ways. The beauty of micro-habits lies in their simplicity. They are so small that they often go unnoticed, and yet when practiced consistently over time, they compound into a force of enormous potential. The individual who masters the art of turning micro-habits into massive leverage knows that the path to greatness is not through one grand breakthrough, but through countless small, deliberate actions repeated every day. Consider the story of a person who wishes to improve their health. At first, the goal might seem too overwhelming. The idea of going to the gym for an hour every day, of overhauling their entire diet, or of running a marathon might feel insurmountable. But rather than being intimidated by the enormity of the task, this person decides to start small. They commit to a single, manageable action, taking a brisk 10-minute walk every day, no matter what. At first, it feels insignificant, just 10 minutes, but they do it every day without fail. As the days pass, they begin to feel a slight increase in energy. Their mood improves and their self-esteem grows as they honor their commitment. Over time, the 10-minute walk turns into 20, then 30, then eventually it becomes a jog. They begin to make healthier food choices, start cooking their meals at home, and find themselves waking up earlier with more energy to take on the day. That small 10-minute walk, repeated daily, becomes the foundation of a complete transformation. The micro-habit of walking is not merely a one-time act of health. It has created a cascade of positive habits, each one reinforcing the next, turning a simple decision into an entire lifestyle. Now, think of the aspiring writer who dreams of penning a best-selling novel. The idea of writing a book can be daunting, especially when one considers the magnitude of the task ahead. But rather than succumbing to overwhelm, the writer chooses to focus on the smallest action, writing just one paragraph each day. This may seem insignificant at first. Who can write an entire novel one paragraph at a time? But as the days go by, the writer finds that the paragraphs start to pile up. After a week, there are 7 paragraphs. After a month, there are 30. In time, the small habit of writing one paragraph a day becomes an unstoppable force. That one tiny action done every single day has slowly but surely added up to a completed manuscript. And what started as a humble micro-habit of writing a single paragraph turns into a finished novel ready to be published. The writer's success wasn't due to long, grueling writing sessions, but rather to the consistency of the small daily action. Each day, that micro-habit provided the momentum needed to reach the end goal. But the power of micro-habits doesn't just apply to physical health or creative endeavors. It applies to every area of life. Think about the person who wants to improve their financial situation. They could choose to make drastic, sweeping changes, cutting every expense, overhauling their budget, or making large, risky investments. But instead of going to extremes, they commit to a simple daily habit, saving just $5 a day. At first, this may seem like an insignificant amount, but over the course of a year, that's $2,825. And over 5 years, that's nearly $10,000. The person doesn't stop there. As they begin to see the power of small savings, they adjust their habits, finding ways to save a little more here and there. What started as a micro-habit has now become a powerful financial foundation, and over time, as the individual learns to reinvest that $5 and grow it further, they unlock an entirely new level of financial security and opportunity, all stemming from the simple act of saving $5 a day. Consider also the influence that micro-habits can have on relationships. Many individuals struggle to cultivate strong, lasting relationships because they focus only on grand gestures, the expensive gifts, the elaborate dates, the dramatic moments of affection. But true connection is not built in fleeting moments of grandeur. It is built in the small, everyday actions. The person who sends a simple thinking of you text every morning to a friend. The individual who asks, "How was your day?" and truly listens to the answer, even when they're busy. These small, consistent acts of kindness and attention accumulate, strengthening the bond over time. What may seem like a trivial habit, sending a text or making a quick call, is actually the foundation of a deep and enduring relationship. These micro habits, when practiced daily, have the power to create trust, deepen connections, and bring people closer together in ways that no grand gesture ever could. The key to turning micro habits into massive leverage lies in their compound nature. The true power of these habits doesn't lie in their individual impact, but in their ability to build upon each other day after day. Each micro habit you establish is a brick in the foundation of your success, a single step that, when repeated, leads to monumental progress. The magic isn't in one large leap, it's in the small, incremental steps taken consistently over time. Each tiny action propels you forward until one day you look back and realize that all those seemingly insignificant acts have transformed your life in ways you never imagined. And so the person who wants to achieve great things doesn't need to focus on massive changes or radical overhauls. They simply need to recognize the power of the smallest actions and then, with unwavering commitment, turn those micro habits into the leverage that will move them toward their goals. Momentum in its truest form is not a sudden burst of energy or an instantaneous shift in circumstances. It is the quiet, persistent buildup of faith and repetition, a powerful combination that propels you forward, even when you don't see immediate results. The foundation of this momentum is rooted in two core elements: faith in the unseen and repetition of the unseen. It is in these small, unseen acts of belief and persistence that greatness is born. Each act of faith, no matter how small, and each repetition, no matter how insignificant it may feel, fuels a force that eventually becomes unstoppable. The genius of momentum is that it doesn't need to be seen or recognized in its early stages. The results, the breakthroughs, often come only after a series of consistent, faith-driven actions repeated time and time again. This is where the magic happens. The seemingly small and inconsequential efforts accumulate, gaining strength and velocity until they become an unstoppable force. Take, for instance, the story of a young musician who dreams of becoming a world-class pianist. At first, their progress is slow and their skills far from the level they aspire to reach. But they understand that success in any endeavor is built not on sudden bursts of brilliance, but on consistent practice that is done with faith in the process. Each time they sit down at the piano, it may feel like little progress is made, yet they do not waver. They know that with each key they press, with each scale they practice, they are laying the foundation for something much greater. Their faith tells them that though they cannot yet play the concertos they dream of, their daily repetitions will eventually unlock their potential. Day after day they show up, even when they feel tired or discouraged, knowing that every note played is a brick in the wall of their success. What they may not see in the moment is the compound effect of their faith and repetition. But over time, their fingers become faster, their ear more acute, and their ability to play more refined. Eventually, what seemed like an insurmountable goal becomes achievable, not because of one magical moment, but because of faith in the process and the relentless repetition of small actions. The same principle applies to athletes, particularly those who compete in sports that require extraordinary physical endurance like marathon running. A runner does not wake up one morning and run a marathon without months, even years of training. The process is gradual. It is a long journey of believing in oneself and committing to the repetitions. Every single run, whether it is a short, slow jog or a long, grueling stretch, is an act of faith that each step is getting them closer to their goal. In the beginning, the progress is often invisible. The runner may be discouraged by how difficult the first few miles feel or how slow they seem to progress compared to others. But they understand that it is not the fast pace of one run that defines their success, but the consistent faith and repetition of every run every week that will build the stamina, endurance, and strength necessary to complete the marathon. The same belief in the unseen and the power of repetition drives them forward. With each additional mile, they grow stronger. With each new run, their muscles adapt and their heart becomes more resilient. Eventually, they reach a point where the distance that once seemed impossible is now within reach, all because of their unshakable faith in the process and their unwavering commitment to the repetition of the task. The power of faith and repetition also manifests in the world of business, particularly for entrepreneurs. The road to entrepreneurial success is rarely a straight line, and setbacks are inevitable. There are moments when doubt creeps in, when the business isn't growing as fast as expected, when the sales are lower than anticipated, or when competitors seem to be outperforming. It's in these moments that the entrepreneur's faith becomes the most critical asset they possess. They may not see immediate results, but they believe deep down that their efforts will pay off. They continue to put in the work day after day, despite the lack of immediate recognition. Each email sent, each marketing strategy tested, each product developed, these actions may seem small, and the results may not be visible at once. But they understand that through repetition, the momentum will build. With each repetition, their skills sharpen. With each action, they learn and grow. The belief that the process works, coupled with the consistency of effort, eventually leads to breakthroughs. The entrepreneur's faith in the journey allows them to persist through difficult times, and the repetition of actions, even in the face of failure, creates the momentum necessary for eventual success. Repetition, when combined with faith, is the key to unlocking the latent power within you. It is not enough to simply believe in the possibility of success. You must also put in the effort repeatedly, day after day, knowing that your actions, no matter how small they may seem in the moment, are adding up. Faith gives you the belief that what you are doing is worth the effort, even when results are not immediate. Repetition provides the practice, the experience, and the honing of skills that are required to turn faith into reality. Together, they create a cycle of continuous improvement, where every action reinforces the next, and each new effort brings you closer to your desired outcome. This cycle is not always easy. There will be days when the results aren't as expected. There will be moments when it feels as though nothing is happening, when the effort seems wasted, and when the destination appears distant. But this is where faith truly comes into play. Faith is not about believing that the journey will always be easy or that success will come quickly. It is about believing in the process, trusting that every step, no matter how small, is contributing to the momentum that will carry you to your goal. And repetition is the engine that drives this momentum forward. Each repetition, done with faith, fuels the next until eventually you will find yourself at the destination you once thought impossible. The power of faith combined with repetition creates an unstoppable force that propels you forward through the challenges and setbacks towards success. In life, there are moments of grandeur, moments that are filled with applause and recognition, where everyone stands and notices the steps we take. But these moments, though memorable, are not where true success is forged. The real shaping of your destiny happens in the quiet, private decisions, the decisions that no one sees. It is in these unseen moments, when no one is watching, that the course of your future is written. Every small choice you make, often in the silence of your own thoughts and actions, contributes to the unfolding of your destiny. These decisions, made when the eyes of the world are elsewhere, have the power to shape your future more than any public victory ever could. Consider the story of an artist. They may spend years toiling away in obscurity, creating piece after piece of artwork, some of which are met with little to no recognition. No one sees the countless hours of practice, the late nights spent refining their craft, or the inner struggles that test their confidence. It is in these moments, when they decide to paint despite the lack of fame, when they continue to perfect their techniques, even though they are not receiving praise, that their destiny is being shaped. The artist could choose to give up, to allow the absence of external validation to halt their progress. But it is the decision to continue to stay committed to their craft despite the lack of recognition that ultimately sets them apart. These quiet decisions, made day after day, eventually lead to a breakthrough. Perhaps one day their work is discovered and the world recognizes their genius. But by the time this moment comes, the artist's destiny has already been determined by the decisions made in the solitude of their studio. It was the consistency, the faith in their craft, and the quiet persistence of those unseen moments that turned their dreams into reality. This principle holds true for many successful individuals, including those in the business world. The entrepreneur who works tirelessly behind the scenes, constantly adjusting their strategies, making decisions on their own without the applause of investors or customers, is the one who is laying the groundwork for future success. The world may see the flashy launch of a new product, the public speeches, and the press releases. But the true success of the entrepreneur is found in the quiet decisions they make in the early hours of the morning or in the late hours of the night. It is in those private moments when they decide to reinvest their last few dollars into the business instead of taking a vacation, when they spend long hours analyzing market data or working on product development instead of relaxing. The entrepreneur could easily take a shortcut, reduce their efforts, or indulge in distractions. But the decision to continue to stay committed to their vision, even when it feels lonely or difficult, is the one that shapes their destiny. These decisions, unseen by the public eye, compound over time and lead to greater achievements than the public accolades ever could. The world may not see their struggles, but their destiny is being carved by those very struggles and the decisions made to overcome them. In personal relationships, the same principle applies. The individual who chooses to be kind, even when no one is looking, who decides to show up for a friend in need, even when they are exhausted, is the one who builds lasting bonds. The decisions to be patient, to listen deeply, and to forgive when it would be easier to harbor resentment are the ones that create the foundation for strong relationships. These decisions may not be noticed in the moment, and they certainly do not come with public applause. Yet over time, these unseen acts of love and care lay the groundwork for trust and mutual respect. People who make these small, quiet decisions to invest in their relationships, even when the benefits aren't immediately apparent, often find themselves surrounded by a strong support network. Their destiny is shaped by their choice to act with integrity and compassion, even when no one is watching. Athletes, too, face this same challenge. The public sees the game-winning shot, the championship win, or the record-breaking performance, but they do not see the countless hours of training, the quiet decisions to push through fatigue, to rise early for practice, or to refuse to succumb to injury. These decisions, made behind closed doors in the solitude of training camps or personal gym sessions, are what lead to athletic success. A runner, for instance, may have to decide whether or not to go for an early morning run when the weather is unfavorable or when their body is sore from previous workouts. The choice to push through the discomfort, to stick to the training schedule, and to make small sacrifices along the way is what sets the athlete apart from those who give up at the first sign of difficulty. These decisions, repeated day in and day out, often go unnoticed, but they build the physical and mental resilience that leads to eventual victory. The athlete's destiny is shaped by these private, unseen choices just as much as it is by the public moments of success that the world cheers for. Similarly, for those who are striving for personal growth, the most significant moments of progress often happen in the quiet decisions they make about how to handle their thoughts, emotions, and daily habits. The decision to wake up early for meditation, to take time to reflect and practice gratitude, to refrain from reacting impulsively in moments of stress, these are the decisions that shape the character of an individual. It is in these unseen moments that resilience is built, patience is nurtured, and inner strength is developed. When the world sees someone who has achieved great things or handled adversity with grace, they may not realize that the foundation of that person's strength was built in the countless private moments of self-discipline and self-control. The choices they made to show up for themselves, even when there was no one else around to acknowledge their efforts, were the ones that ultimately determined their future success. Every decision you make in the quiet, uncelebrated moments of life is the key to unlocking the future you desire. Your destiny is hidden in the choices you make when no one is watching. The decisions to persevere, to stay true to your goals, and to make the right choices even when no recognition is given, these are the moments that determine where you will end up. It is in these decisions that the groundwork for your future success, happiness, and fulfillment is being laid. While the world may not see these choices, they are the ones that matter most. The true measure of your life's journey is not in the applause you receive for your public actions, but in the quiet, steadfast decisions you make when no one else is paying attention. These are the decisions that shape your destiny.